right now, for example, the United States, you know where a lot of our oil is going? I just found this out, Nima. Impeccable sources. A lot of Israel's oil is coming from, guess who? The United States of America. The JP-8 that's necessary for all those massive, massive numbers of plane strikes that Israel has made day in and day out is almost 100% coming from the empire.
Oh man, this just doesn't surprise me anymore. Does it surprise you guys? Let's talk about that empire real quick. Not the one with lightsabers and space battles, though that's starting to feel more real by the day. No, we're talking about the US shipping fuel to Israel like it's Black Friday and the shelves are bare. That's right. While the whole world's paying the price, the US is keeping Israel's planes flying to drop bombs that makes your average Hollywood explosion look like a firecracker. And Israel, well, they're digging themselves a hole so deep, they might just hit an ancient ruin of their own arrogance. They're taking credit for victories they didn't even win and setting up their own demise. But hey, as long as they've got US fuel, who needs to worry about the consequences? It's time to expose this empire's latest tricks, and trust me, this is going to be a blockbuster. Let's dive in.
We are shipping fuel to Israel at a pace that outstrips anything else we're doing in the world in terms of fossil fuels. Now, there are others sending fuel in too. I think, conclusively discover that the oil in Syria some of it is getting to Israel still, and that's one reason we want to stay there. But JP-8's a critical thing because that's what keeps your airplanes in the air. And Israel only has about a 300,000 gallon per day refining capacity for JP-8, and they're probably burning that per day. So they've got to get that fuel from somewhere. And so now the empire is not only complicit in genocide with 2,000-pound bombs and all the rest Israel is using, we're now complicit in keeping their planes flying so that they can drop those bombs. Listening to Jolani in Damascus with the Turkish foreign minister, both speaking very good English and very fluent in the speaking, or the translator for Jolani, and a couple of other interviews that I watched that Jolani gave and that other people who were critical to the area gave. Now, rule out Israel completely, and I'll get to that in just a second. But this idea of domination is going to murder Syria, I think, because you saw when Lee went in to talk with Jolani and his people and insisted that he not have any contacts with Iran, just the surface of what the empire is going to do. The empire is not going to lift sanctions unless they do exactly what we want them to do. And if we don't lift sanctions, then it's almost impossible, even with Turkey's help and maybe others' help, it's going to be impossible for him to get out because sanctions are what ultimately undid Assad. So he's facing this inexorability that I talked about before. And I feel sorry for him because however good intentions he might have and how much he might have discarded his past, and I think in that past he was working for us, he's not going to be able to do it. And Turkey is not going to be able to help him to do it in any significant way, even if their ulterior motives are not quite as benign as the foreign minister seemed to say. They're just not going to be able to do it. And Israel's not going to be able to continue what it's doing either because the chaos that the empire has created, which disregards all these other little players, including Israel, is going to be overwhelming for them. They're not going to be able to deal with it. Mark my words here, Israel is going to be gone, just as I said before, in less than a decade. It's going to be gone as an integral state in the region where it now exists. And that's because we've started these forces in motion that are designed to build chaos to the extent that they stop this inexorable power shift. And they will eat anyone on the periphery. They will destroy anyone on the periphery, ally, friend, or enemy. They will do that. I think Putin senses that. I'm not sure he's got this grasp of the great game that I'm suggesting is going again, and I hate that title of game because it isn't a game, it's existential. He senses that, he knows that. But you're right, if Russia and China and the BRICS Plus put up that wall of, shall we say, control. China likes to call it the ASEAN approach, the approach that attracts more people to it, the approach that builds more economic might, more financial might, ultimately replaces the dollar. Thank you very much. The approach that says comedy and cooperation and collaboration is our design. And you can say we've got an ulterior motive all day long. Our design is better than yours. And the rest of the world increasingly is recognizing that. So we're going to put this in motion, whether it's the Base Road Initiative or something else. And you're going to run up against it, and it's going to be a juggernaut. And the only way you're going to stop it is to kill us all. That's what frightens me about this contest. This is not a game. This is no game for the British to play in Crimea. Charge of the Light Brigade, into the Valley of Death, Road to 600. Well, this will be into the Valley of everyone extinguished on the face of the earth. This is a different confrontation. It's not a game at all. And we're just stoking the fires. And Donald Trump hasn't a clue about what I just said, nor do any of his principal advisors. And they're going to fall right into the trap.
Larry, one of the parties in the conflict in the Middle East, which is a very, I would argue, a very unpredictable party, is Yemen right now.
Yeah. If they can get out from under the bombs to be predictable.
Yeah.
Israel's digging its own grave, Nima. It's digging its own grave with the people of the world, with the international community writ large in terms of law and criminal justice. It's digging its own grave. It's digging it in Gaza. It's incredible. If you look at the history of the Israelites, not the Israelis, but the Israelites, this is what they did throughout their history. Arrogance, disregarding their own scripture, worshiping the golden calf, and then someone like Nebuchadnezzar took them down.
Here's the reality check. Jelani and the Turkish foreign minister in Damascus chatting away in fluent English, and Israel? Yeah, they're not even in the conversation anymore. The empire's not letting Syria breathe. Sanctions aren't lifting anytime soon. Israel, meanwhile, is digging its own grave with every airstrike, fueling chaos with the side order of arrogance. In less than a decade, Israel could be history, folks, but don't worry. The BRIC countries are stepping up, building economic power, and leaving the US trailing behind, clueless. Trump? He's busy stumbling into traps, while Israel keeps ignoring its past. I mean, it's like they're worshipping the golden calf again. Only this time, there's no Nebuchadnezzar coming to knock them down. The empire's self-destruction is going to take them with it.
What's so amazing to me, Larry, that those people who are feeling that they're victorious, they're winning right now in Israel, I'm talking about Netanyahu and his administration, it doesn't seem to be, they couldn't defeat Hamas in Gaza, they couldn't defeat Hezbollah, and right now they're taking credit from what Turkey or the United States did in Syria, which wasn't the case for Israel. Israel didn't do anything substantially in order
except move in fast with shovels and rakes.
So it's how can they say that they're winning? And right now, how?
I think that's what you do when you're losing so badly. You're either psychologically predisposed to use that kind of propaganda, and you hope it helps your efforts ultimately, or you're just kind of mad. And I think a little bit of both applies to Netanyahu. Plus, he's got that spur that is on him all the time to stay out of jail.
What I do see right now, Larry, is the way that Israel tried to treat Hamas when this movement started in those days against the leader of Palestine. I don't remember his name, and they were just helping Hamas to go after some sort of division, to make some sort of division within the Palestinians. And right now we see how Hamas turned against them. And don't you think that what's happening right now in Syria would be the same case, would be the same story. After all, when everything gets to the point that these people are powerful enough, they're gonna fight Israel, in my opinion.
I think so, and I think what you're seeing, the thing that really puzzles me, it shouldn't puzzle me because I had to deal with Mahmoud Abbas and Yasser Arafat.
By the, but, his name was Yasser Arafat. Yeah,
Yeah,
they were helping Hamas against Yasser
yeah,
Arafat.
yeah. I'm looking at the Palestinian Authority essentially doing Israel's job for it in the on the West Bank, trying to bring order and discipline in order to get the master to say, "Oh, thank you for doing that," and then kill them too. But you're right. This is a crazy situation, and the Palestinians, frankly, in this little tactical sense, outside this great sweep I'm talking about, a power change, are their own worst enemy. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. They're their own worst enemy. They never can. They're like the Kurds. The Kurds can never get their act together. They squabble amongst themselves. If the Kurds mounted an offensive from northern Iraq all the way to northern Syria and got everything together, they'd be a formidable force. But they can never do that because they're always arguing amongst themselves. And they're anything but in the northern part of Iraq a democracy. People keep telling me about how Sulaymaniyah and other places are just great places to go and visit and everything because the economy's booming. No, they aren't Democrats. There's no way in the world they are. They're fiefdoms. They're tribal. That's their great weakness. Palestinians, to a certain extent, are the same way. But I go back to they're all going to be swept. They're going to be detritus, Nima. They're all going to be swept up in this massive contest between the empires that are aborting and the empires that are dying. And we're the one that's dying. And it may take us 50 years, but it'll be a bloody 50 years. And I'm afraid we may adumbrate that 50-year period or whatever it is with a colossal nuclear holocaust in the middle of it. And that'll stop it. That'll stop it for sure. That'll stop and it's a huge example of what we're talking about now from time to time in more or less esoteric circles now about the possibility of Bibi using a nuclear weapon. Because some people sense what I'm telling you about Israel, that it is going down and it is going down big time. And it'll be Monday morning when you went to bed on Sunday night and everything was okay. Monday morning, it won't be okay. And then maybe Golda Meir's answer to that BBC journalist comes back and haunts you because the Solomon option is always there. Let's pull the temple down. Let's use a nuclear weapon. It might not be Iran that sparks it. It might be something else that sparks it. One never knows about this region. I'm reading right now some information that, for example, shocking information, but I should have expected it because I knew the 9/11 Commission didn't do a very good job. Hell, I wrote Powell's testimony for it and helped with Condi Rice's testimony. I knew we didn't do a good job. But right now, I'm hearing the information's coming out that shows major Saudi royal complicity in 9/11. And the only thing that's keeping it from coming out is people who don't want it to come out. But it will inexorably work its way out. I wonder how much deeper this goes. Were we even complicit with the Saudi royals? Because it started the clean break strategy instantly, just like that. Gave us an excuse to do it when we didn't really have an excuse to do it. So there are all kinds of things percolating in the background right now that might cause a lot of embarrassment and a lot of problems for a good many people in the Western Empire pushing back against the movement of power towards the East. And I know the Chinese and the Russians and others will take advantage of that in any way they can. But they don't really have to do very much because the world is rapidly becoming a empire hater. It reminds me of the opening scenes. I don't know if you're a young man, but way back there when the Star Wars series started, and you had this battle star up there, and you had the rebels on the surface of the moon or whatever it was, and the the comparison was stark, of course, because it was Hollywood. It was a compressed time, 2 hours of a film, whatever. But the images come back to me with stark realism. because that is what the rest of the world is Han Solo and the people on the ground, the rebels, as it were, and we're the empire. We're the battle star that has the big weapon up there that's going to incinerate their not just them but their whole world, you know, blow their planet or whatever out of the universe. Uh, that's a very good image for what we have become in the United States, and that's exactly what the Turkish foreign minister insinuated to the new leader in Damascus. What wrecked this region wrecked you. Now, let's don't let it go any further. I wanted to say to Foreign Minister Saddam, good luck, because you got the empire on your back. I don't care how much you trust Erdogan and Turkey's power and your position in the region, which is very strategic. The empire will push you over too if it has to.
The unfolding chaos in the Middle East is a complex web of shifting allegiances and failed strategies. Israel's internal contradictions, like its past with Hamas and its struggling to maintain influence, are only escalating. As power dynamics shift eastwards, the United States, once the undisputed empire, is now facing the inexorable decline of its global dominance. Countries like Russia, China, and the BRICS are leveraging this moment. While the US continues to cling to outdated tactics and strategies, the question isn't just about who's winning or losing. It's about how far the empire is willing to push the world into chaos before it's too late. As the empire crumbles, we're witnessing the rise of powers, the weakening of old ones, and the dangerous possibility of desperate moves like nuclear escalation. The future is definitely uncertain. One thing is clear: the world is rapidly shifting away from Western hegemony, and the consequences of that shift will echo for generations to come. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you in the next one.